My name is Samantha Di Lena and I'm here to talk about problem finding, not solving. Thank you all so much for coming to this session right before lunch. So I'm going to try and make it as fun as possible. I've popped up the sponsor slide at the start here, so thank you to all our sponsors to make this event possible. And while this is on the screen, I'm going to ask a couple of questions just to work out who I've got in my audience today. So if you put your hand up for me, who here is part of a startup or a small business? Nice. And who here wears multiple hats, like a sort of a hybrid role? Nice. And who here is just so good that they are the go-to person, regardless of what team or department you're in? Come on. I know there's more of you. Well, you've all got something in common. You're in demand and you're good at solving things. Now, the best problem solvers are the best problem finders. But they don't just find any problem, they find the right problem that needs solving. Now, problem solving is a fundamental skill that we learn throughout our school years. But I believe that we're only taught half the process. We are taught to look for solutions and to solve for the problem in front of us. But what about how to find the problem or how to find a better problem? Now, I bet you're all thinking, I've got enough problems in my life already. Why do I want to find more? We are always going to have problems come up to us in our lives, and it's about selecting the right problem for us at that moment. So let's have a talk about why we want to find some good problems. Firstly, productivity and effectiveness. So by focusing on the high priority issues, we increase our effectiveness of those and we can have greater impact on more relevant problems. Stress reduction. Looking at all the problems that we've got has an impact on stress and burnout. Goal alignment. Ensuring that the problems we address are aligned with our goals and our organisation's goals. It helps us work toward what's most impactful for us. And time management. So spending time or wasting time on inconsequential issues that aren't actually going to move us forward and progress us. We want to work on things that are actually going to have an impact. So let's consider what we need to know about finding some new and better problems and how we might move past some potential obstacles. So today I'm going to talk about 4 pillars of problem finding: curiosity, creativity, embracing uncertainty, and collaboration. So pillar number 1, curiosity. So curiosity is defined as a desire to know. And in our case, we desire to know what is the best problem here. I've also got a second definition here, which I really like, which is about recognising a gap in our knowledge about something and becoming invested in closing that gap through exploration and learning. So when we look at problem finding, we acknowledge that there's a gap in what we know and we have a desire to know it. So this helps us with problem finding because it encourages us to ask some really great questions. And these are questions like, what is the problem that we have identified or discovered? Why does this problem need to be solved? Is it a better problem than others? Can you measure it? Or more specifically, how do you know when you've solved it? And will the outcome of solving the problem be worth the effort to solve it? So these are all great questions to ask and great things to know about problem finding. Now, we all view the world through our own lived experiences, our beliefs, and our standards. And we make assumptions based on those as well. At the extreme, this can be considered a type of bias or confirmation bias. And that is only looking for information that is consistent with our existing beliefs. So as a result of this, there are questions that we just don't ask because we are assuming that other people already know them or that they're obvious. So ask all the questions, even if they seem obvious or obvious to you. You might be surprised at the responses that people come back with. Different information that you weren't expecting. Information that is based on the other person's experiences, their standards and their beliefs. Pillar number 2, creativity. So we need to use our imagination and ideas to determine how a problem might benefit us. In most situations, there are a multitude of potential problems, and we usually default to the problems that we have encountered in the past, which makes sense. We've recognised them, we've seen them before, so we know what they look like. If we consider this again from a view of a bias, this comes under the category of availability bias or recency bias, which means relying only on information that comes readily to mind. And that's easy to do because it's fresh. It means thinking about the previous problem we've dealt with really recently. And this is a good starting point to problem finding, but it doesn't span wide enough. It implies that it's the only problem affecting us in this situation or scenario right now, and that no better problem exists. So before we start to get overwhelmed with the idea of trying to find more problems, let's look at this from a different angle. We are not looking for more problems to add to our collection of problems. We are looking to idea the best and most impactful problem affecting us right now. And while this involves creatively spanning for more problems initially, we then take all of those and we refine them to what is actually going to focus on the issue that's having the most impact for us in this situation. So get creative and think about potential problems that you normally wouldn't consider. And a lot of times we can default to solutions at this step. Hold back. We aren't looking for a problem because we have a good solution. I'll say that again. We aren't looking for a problem because we have a good solution. Right now, we are just looking for the best problem. Solutions will come later, and I'm confident that all of you will find the most appropriate solution to your problems. At the moment, we need to just get comfortable with selecting a problem that we may not yet know the answer for. Putting a bit of reality back into this discussion, I'll just say that we need to consider as many options as feasible in the time frame that you have and within your skill set. Pillar number 3, embracing uncertainty. So uncertainty is often centred around worries about the future and all the bad things that you can anticipate happening. And when we look at this from the perspective of problem finding, it may show up in us defaulting to the tried and true solution to the most obvious problem. And if we accept the obvious problem as our focus, it means we don't need to entertain the idea that we may not know the answer, or at least not straight away. Or it may be that there is a better problem that exists, but it means that we have to change some other aspect of our work or our project. So we attempt to anticipate all the possible things occurring in the future based on an unknown problem. So what if, instead, we put aside the obvious problem for a moment and just be open to the uncertainty of not knowing what problem may be uncovered? Uncertainty provides us with a great opportunity, and it's an opportunity for exploration and growth. Now, I think we've all heard about our comfort zone. So our comfort zone is where we feel safe, we feel confident, we feel calm. We know what to expect. And we kind of don't need to think too hard either. So our learning zone or our growth zone sits outside of that comfort. It's where we're challenged, we're stretched. We feel uncomfortable because we don't know all the answers. We may feel that discomfort because we can't predict what might happen next. Yet taking on that discomfort brings us to new and exciting opportunities and experiences. And it's these experiences that we otherwise wouldn't come across. So these new and different experiences mean we can expand our thinking and grow. We can grow our knowledge and learn things. So we can reinvent ourselves and our situations. So by referring to uncertainty as a chance for growth, exploration, creativity, that pressure from the future eases. Pillar number 4, collaboration. So collaboration allows us to identify all the people that this problem may impact. So is this a problem that you can solve by yourself? Is this something that you need someone to assist you with? Is it someone with a different skill set perhaps, or someone with more experience in what you're looking at? Who does this problem impact? Do you need to get certain approval for what you're working on? Collaboration is basically about all the different kinds of relationships that this problem will touch on. Now, has anyone heard of the concept of ecology? Most likely in decision making. Ecology in relation to problem finding is about identifying how the problem affects us, how it affects others, and how it affects the greater environment. So this is where we check the ecology. Will addressing this problem impact on others in a good way? Does this problem align with your goals or your organisation's goals? Is the time frame appropriate? Is the problem identified something that you have a chance of solving within the time frame you've been given? Now again, I'm going to bring a bit of reality back in because we might like to think that we have an indefinite amount of time to solve our problems, which isn't the case. We all know that there's a deadline someone set, so we work towards that deadline and we get to a certain point before we need to stop. So I'd like to pause and acknowledge here that this concept of problem finding probably isn't new to a lot of you, yet I am still talking about it. So just because we know a concept in theory doesn't mean that we're applying it or practicing it. So what are some potential obstacles that are stopping us from some good problem finding? Honestly, it's usually us. So our old ways of thinking, lack of self-trust, fears of failure, incompetence, and most of the time, ego. So when our ego is in the picture, it makes it much harder to be open and curious and look for potential problems. So if we think we don't know how to solve them immediately, we won't go looking for them. So our ego is there to protect us. It's to protect us from danger and threat. But it's not danger as we consider real danger. It's about those uncomfortable feelings, feeling awkward, embarrassed, feeling incompetent. The catch is if we aren't curious about new things, then we won't grow. So if we do the same things and the same behaviour, we will keep getting the same results. So this is our invitation to be open to recognise and find new problems so that we can expand our thinking, consider all the possibilities, leaving our egos behind, being okay to find a problem that we don't yet know the answer for. We know we will find it eventually. So name a problem, even if you don't yet know how to fix it. Imagine if we didn't waste our time on solving problems that weren't going to progress us or our work. Imagine if you could find the right problem to solve the majority of the time. The best problem solvers are the best problem finders. And they don't just find any problem, they find the right problem that needs solving. So the 4 pillars I've described today, curiosity, creativity, embracing uncertainty, and collaboration, are the key to becoming a great problem finder. Use these to guide your problem selection and identify a better problem. Problem finding is not merely a skill, it is an attitude, and it's a way of thinking that can empower us and the world. Now, in the final moment, I found this great quote that I like from Einstein. You can read it on the board. Other than that, I want to thank you all for giving me your valuable time here, and I trust that you found something out of this topic that you can take away. Again, my name is Samantha Di Lena. You can catch me around this afternoon or find me on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions?
Thanks for the talk. Just a quick question. When sometimes you're going full blown in problem solving mode or whatever, and you need to take yourself out of that into problem finding mode, what sort of questions do you ask yourself in order to sort of make that shift in your own mind?
Thank you, that's a great question. So it's getting into that different mindset about the possibilities really. So when we're in problem solving, we've come to a rigid mindset on them. That's the only thing that we're looking for. So it's actually just getting that out of the way. So coming back to the core of what are you actually aiming to get out of it? What's the outcome that we're looking for? And some of that, like when we're talking about, development work and software, it's about those original requirements, those business requirements.
We've got time for one more question.
Thank you. I identify as a problem finder. So my question is about how do you tackle the balance between always searching for problems where solving things, it will improve things, but often to an unknown extent, and investing that time to just get the thing done?
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about how do you not spend all your time searching for problems. Yeah, that's great. Look, I guess part of that comes down to knowing what you want to achieve, so knowing what your goals are. So one of the slides at the start was talking about aligning with goals. So it may be your own personal goals or it may be the organisation's goals, but knowing what that goal is, that'll give you time to do your problem finding, and then knowing what you want to achieve with it, that will help you move to the next step. Thank you.